Oh, thank you, Carrie. So I've been working with independent science for about 2 years now. I originally met Dr. Sapalo at an ACS convention in Boston, Massachusetts. I was working as his sighted guide and just became very interested in the topic. And so this presentation is all about my experiences at a summer camp in Napa Valley, California. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's called Enchanted Hills. It's a very wonderful place. I think there's only one or two other places really like it in the U.S. So the question that I was addressing was, would the inclusion of science curriculum in a summer camp for kids who are visually impaired create greater interest in the scientific properties of their environment? And so what I was doing was I was addressing just their daily activities by bringing science material into that. And Greg Williams, who is also here, worked on a curriculum with them for 3 or 4 hours, no, 2.5 hours I think per group. The guys and the girls were split up, and we did some chemical reactions. We tested the pond water, and we had some high-tech solution that we were using called the Talking Lab Quest, and I used it to collect samples from 3 different areas, and we had GPS measurements too, so we could very precisely figure out exactly where the measurements were taken from. Okay, so it was in Napa, California. It's a camp developed specifically for the blind and visually impaired. It's owned by the San Francisco Lighthouse for the Blind, and they've made a few minor adaptations throughout the camp. They have a tactile map in the main activity room. You'll see on the image in the bottom left, it has Greg's wonderful hands feeling it. And you'll see there's a circle of different houses around the middle lake. And then it's a 300-acre property, so this little segment of the map isn't showing the whole thing. But along the entire camp, they have a rope, which goes into the woods and goes throughout the camp that students can follow and navigate their way back to the main part of the camp, and they can independently get around. Keep in mind this is kind of an outdated style. It was developed around the 50s or 60s. Now canes are much more prevalent, and so it's not necessarily frowned upon, but you wouldn't see that made anywhere now. So I wanted to give you a little background about it. It's in Napa Valley, and it's really a treat like no else. It's operated by Director Tony Fletcher, who always keeps the campers smiling and on their toes. From horseback riding to goalball to archery, pool parties, campfires, plays, video editing, and musical trivia, this camp really is a place where kids will go and find their independence and self-confidence while exploring the wonders of nature. So I went to was the summer teen camp. So the students were 14 to, I'd say, 17, maybe the oldest. And I brought the Talking Lab Quest with me, and we operated the pH sensor, the temperature sensor, and the salinity sensor. The samples we took were from around the area's Camp Lake and the sink's tap water. The first sample was the right side of the main dock by the middle of the lake. Longitude negative 1.22.42595. So as you can tell, we got a very specific measurement using the device. The latitude is 38.38261. I won't read the longitude and latitude as I go through. But the pH that we found from that location was 6.92 and 7.16 were the 2 different readings. The next area was 6.63, 6.68, and 7. Then the third sample, which was by the dining hall on the left side of the lake, was 6.65, 6.73, and 6.84. Each of those was a sample that a different group of students was testing. Okay, and compare that to the tap water, which was 6.75, 6.78, and 6.82. Based on these samples, it was concluded that the lake is healthy, but further studies would need to be made on the quality of the organisms living in the lake. Until that avenue is explored, the exact quality of the water in the lake is undetermined, although evidence from past counselors shows that swimming in the water was not detrimental to their health. There were some nature activities where the counselors taught students how to fish, and many 7 to 9 inch catfish were caught by the students. He suggested that up to 1,000 fish may actually reside in the lake, showing that water quality is likely very good. One of the campers, who you'll see a picture of later, spent extra time with the Talking Lab Quest to test the temperature of the lake. Actually, he wouldn't give it back to me after he was holding on to it. So around 2 p.m. in the shade, he determined the temperature to be about 72.5 degrees Fahrenheit, and a little chilly compared to the swimming pool at the camp, which was around 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, I'm going to show you a little clip now of the campers walking down a path. You'll find that they all have very different varying degrees of their visual impairment. You'll find that some have sighted guides, some are wandering along, like this gentleman here by himself, and some are using someone in front of them to help. It was about 35, probably 20 boys and 15 girls. No, they're not walking. They're walking just a path in the woods right now. I think they're going to some sort of campfire or something.
Good. Take a little video.
The one on the right now is the one who wouldn't give the talking lab quest back. They had about 5 or 6 counselors and a bunch of volunteers. Okay, while we were there, we did a bunch of different activities. And so as I was saying, we did do some science curriculum, but the point was really to get them excited about science outside of the curriculum they were doing, really showing that it's a part of their everyday activities. So we did archery, we did some kayaking, where you'll see the guy in the top right is testing the pH of the lake. And there's Greg Williams on the bottom left, who is about to do some baking soda and vinegar experiments with the students, which we'll see their excitement a little bit later. And then on the bottom right, you'll see me playing goal ball. With my left hand, I'm reaching out and feeling some tape, which has rope under it, so it's tactile. I actually got very disoriented while playing. I was completely masked, and after a little while, I had to just stop because I just was so confused. But it was really a great opportunity to put myself in their shoes. A lot of people ask us, how did the archery work? How is that even possible? And it really had to do with muscle memory. A lot of the ways that someone who's blind will go about their day, really being consistent about it. So they'll stand in the exact same spot, they'll try and get their arm exactly the same, and then they'll take a shot. And then they'll adjust based on that. The guy who was instructing was almost completely blind, and he was a pretty good archer, I gotta say. Okay, here's a video of us playing goal ball. That was me slapping the ground for him to tell him to pass the ball.
Yeah.
And there I go, trying to find my way back to that line again, just crawling along on the ground. Does everyone here know goal ball? No? Okay. I'd say it's the most popular sport among the blind community. Definitely the most well-known. So what it is, it's a big rubber ball, like the size of a basketball, and it has bells inside of it. And so the objective is to get the ball in the goal behind 3 people. Some of the players will throw the ball up to 50 or 60 miles an hour, so it does get pretty intense. No one that we were playing with was actually that good. And so basically, you have to keep the ball below your waist, and you roll it, and you have to stay behind that main line that you saw, and people just dive across and try and stop the ball. I think some people wore cups. Okay, so during the activities, we would use something called a hand dynamometer. We would be able to measure their grip strength and their pinch, and we were able to perform muscle fatigue studies. So we had all of the students recording all of their grip to try and find out who had the strongest grip among all of the students. And that was a pretty competitive. We did that all after the goal ball. And so we used that synced up with the talking lab quest, so they were able to hear it read back to them. While we were kayaking, we used the pH sensor, and we recorded all of the data directly into the device. Only one person actually was testing during the kayaking. The rest of it was all collected and then used during the curriculum that we tested, that all the pH samples that I read to you earlier. Kayaking, they were all put with somebody who had better vision. So you never really had someone who's completely blind kayaking by themselves. Greg and I didn't go on it, but the day after we left, they all went on a big kayaking excursion. So they went actually out into a big river and they were kayaking along. I'm not sure exactly what they used to stay in line. I think that they might have, some of the kayaks might have been tied together. Okay, here's a video from the science lesson that we gave. In the video, they poured vinegar into baking soda solution, right, Craig? And then it overflowed, and the girls all got excited. So I tried my best to show that. Okay, in conclusion, we could find that the kids would interact with the science throughout their day, but rarely did they actually realize that these were the same concepts that they were learning in their school courses. And by adding the studies to their daily activities, more inquiries and discussions and questions would come up. We did test the campfire. We were able to hold the thermometer in the vicinity of the fire and get a general reading of it. And yeah, so we took it along with us throughout the day, and a lot of the kids really did take ownership of it to use it throughout their day. This was a shot of my own, the archery. Yeah, and I mean, it really was a great time. I had gone to the camp a couple months beforehand, and we went out to a local winery and we tested the pH of different wine samples as well. Also a couple taste tests. And you can find that on our blog at independencescience.com/blog. We also publish lots of TVI tips on there for teaching science. Teacher of the visually impaired. Thank you, Carrie. Does this brought up any questions? While we're waiting, I'll test the temperature of the room.
Side voice talking LabQuest. Starting LabQuest application. Please wait.
So you'll find that that was very slow compared to most text-to-speech. When I was using it at the poster session yesterday, I slowed it down so people could actually understand it. Some of the feedback I got was, is that in a different language?
Sensor panel. Details box data collection.
Okay, so we're now on the home menu of the device. And I'm plugging the temperature sensor into the top.
CH4. Temperature 22.2 degrees Celsius.
Was that what everyone was expecting?
CH4. Temperature 22.4 degrees Celsius. CH4.
So they also have a science camp where they do more like low-tech analysis. One way that they'll test different chemicals is by their scent. Although it's run by Hobie Wedler, and so we're a little curious how they do pH measurements. So we're trying to get the LabQuest to get into the program, but he says he's completely full with activities at this point. But as you can imagine, testing pH is quite difficult for a visually impaired user. Whereas if you use the lab, yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, actually, one of the clips I didn't show you, the kids kept saying, "Ooh, I wonder what it tastes like to the baking soda and vinegar." And we were like, "No, don't try it, please don't. You won't like it."